Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, breaking down the latest Chelsea news on a regular basis. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe on this Thursday. Today, going to be talking about that Real Madrid draw, of course, facing them now confirmed in the Champions League Semi-Final. Eden Hazard returning to Stamford Bridge, as well Thibaut, Courtois, and just going into that semi-final because it's not only big for Chelsea, but I think it's so exciting to finally be facing Real Madrid in the Champions League at this stage of the competition. Also going to be looking at some centre-back targets, Jose Gimenez, some others as well, and sort of discussing that centre-back situation once again in the transfer window this summer, and also talking about Christian Pulisic because I think I want to touch on his recent form and how quickly things have turned sort of for the better for Christian Pulisic as we go into the final weeks of the season. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, do me a favor on this Thursday by hitting that like button because it helps out the channel as well. I also want to say a massive thank you to Lucid FC for sponsoring Let's Talk Chelsea in 2021. Great guys, great clothes, Chelsea fans as well, supporting a Chelsea channel. This sweatshirt here, the Film Club sweatshirt, my other big love apart from Chelsea FC is film and filmmaking, so I love wearing this sweatshirt. You can get it online, link in the description box below. Thank you once again, Lucid, for sponsoring Let's Talk Chelsea. And Lucid and Son of Chelsea, we're going to be linking up in terms of a big giveaway for the end of the season. It's going to be an exciting giveaway for you guys to get involved with, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and thank you, Lucid, for sponsoring the show this year. But firstly, that Champions League semi-final draw, we knew what it was going to be. It was either going to be Real Madrid or Liverpool. In the end, it went to a 0-0 draw last night. I actually think Liverpool should have done a lot better. I think they made some really good chances and I think should have scored, especially Mohamed Salah had one in the first half. He should have scored. But it is Real Madrid, and the incredible thing about Real that I felt for a few years actually is the lack of time we've actually faced them in competitive competition, especially in European competition. In terms of the modern age of the Champions League, we haven't faced them in its current sort of iteration, the Champions League. And the fact that we've got to so many like semi-finals, a few finals as well, Real Madrid's history in the competition, is quite incredible. We haven't faced each other for such a long time. The last time we faced each other in competitive action was 1998. So it's quite incredible given these two sort of European heavyweights at times over the last like 20 years. We haven't faced Real Madrid. I love the idea of facing Real Madrid. I think it's going to be a really tough tie, but I just think it's unique. I think facing Liverpool, not only facing them once again in the Champions League and the narrative surrounding that, but just the Premier League club. We faced Liverpool enough in the domestic season anyway. Facing Real Madrid, of course, Eden Hazard. There's so many narratives around this game. The fact we rarely face Real Madrid, the magnitude of facing Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final, Thomas Tuchel, you know, his ability to maybe get Chelsea to a Champions League final, but of course Eden Hazard and Thibaut Courtois coming up against their former team. Eden, of course, different sort of feeling from Chelsea fans for both of these players, starkly different feeling. So Eden Hazard, I think this was when he left Chelsea, this Instagram post a few years ago, he said, Chelsea and especially Chelsea fans will always be special to me, and next season I will look for your results first. I hope that we are drawn against each other in the Champions League next season and every season so we can meet again. So Eden's dream has come true. And here from Up to Joe, Real Madrid have faced Chelsea more often without winning than any other side in their entire history, failing to win in all three games against them, drawing one and losing the other two, while their upcoming semi-final encounter will be the first ever UEFA Champions League meeting. So once again, there's a unique element to this tie, and as well the dates have been confirmed. So the first leg, of course, being played away from home in the Spanish capital on Tuesday the 27th of April at 8 p.m, with the return leg a week later on Wednesday the 5th of May at Stamford Bridge. Great once again that we have the home away, an actual home away encounter rather than it being just in one stadium like it has been for the Porto quarter-final. Obviously Eden Hazard, it's such a shame that fans aren't there. I saw some quotes that Courtois saying he's upset that fans won't be in attendance for this game, especially at Stamford Bridge. I think he's actually quite fortunate that fans aren't there. If he's, you know, defending the Matthew Warding lower, if there was fans behind him there, I don't think he'd have the best experience. Eden, on the other hand, I think would have had a wonderful return to Chelsea. I think the flags, sort of the songs that would have been sung towards Eden Hazard, I think the appreciation for Eden. Let's hope it can be a successful game against Real Madrid. It's an incredible chance for Chelsea this. I don't think we can underestimate getting to the Champions League semi-final for the first time in 7 years and being at this stage. I think even if we get knocked out, and some people won't like this mentality, but I think even if we were to get knocked out to what is a very good side with some very good players, I think that it's just a success that we've got to this stage. I think just getting past the last 16, I think I said in pre-season, I felt quarterfinals was sort of the basic sort of achievement this year in the Champions League. To get beyond that, I think once you get into the final, it's going to be either PSG or Man City. Chelsea will not be favourites for that game. I don't think they're favourites for this one either. But as we've seen the way Tuchel has navigated the Champions League game so far, the sort of more reactive counter-attacking style may just work in Chelsea's favour in a knockout tie. We'll have to see. But those are my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts on Eden Hazard return, the memories of Eden Hazard, also Real Madrid, the magnitude of playing Real. Let me know your thoughts on this Champions League semi-final coming up very soon in the comments below. So I want to get into some transfer stuff, transfer rumours recently. Chelsea apparently still wanting to go out there and signing a new centre-back in the summer. I can understand why. I think I've discussed this and several elements to it. I think in terms of Chelsea just always wanting to spend big in the transfer window, even I think in some areas where they don't particularly need to. I think the contract situation of players like Andreas Christensen, but also Antonio Rudiger, I also think there's a question mark over Kurt Zouma's future. So there could be a reason beyond that as well. Thiago Silva and Dave, you think they're at least going to be here for next season, but beyond that, you need a more long-term sort of option in that area. But Jose Gimenez have been a long-term target, and reports came out from Spain this week claiming that both Sal and Gimenez are on the list of possible casualties managed by Atletico Madrid. There are claims that Atletico could be losing 6 to 7 first-team players next season in the summer, as reported by Miguel Martin Talavera, as reported in El Logaro, both who played against Chelsea in the last 16 tie in the Champions League. But also I want to reference this piece by Simon Johnson when he discussed sort of the centre-back situation for Chelsea, and he brought up a number of names. One of those was Jose Gimenez as a potential summer target in this area, Konate from RB Leipzig, and also Sula from Bayern Munich. We spoke about him before. David Alaba was in there as well. So the Athletic has reported on this before and has brought up Gimenez names pretty frequently. And I've seen other reports this week of Jules Koundé from Sevilla being another target potentially for Chelsea. Of course, Chelsea being in Sevilla the past 2 weeks for the game against Porto, and potentially some dealings going on there, maybe negotiations. We don't know how concrete that is, and I would sort of doubt that because we haven't heard from the likes of Matt Law, top sort of Chelsea journalists around Koundé yet. But there are many rumours about Chelsea and centre-back targets. I think beyond this, I think my answer to this solution is I don't think we should be selling many of our current centre-backs. I think Kurt Zouma is the one that I look towards, not so much based on his talent and on what I think he can bring to the team, which I think is very strong and very useful. I just think personally for him, I think at his stage of his career, I think he may look elsewhere if he feels that he isn't going to be a guaranteed first star or someone who is going to be a regular starter on the Thomas Tuchel. He's started to get more minutes, but he's not the first choice centre back, I don't think, at the moment. Christensen, Rudiger, Dave, Thiago Silva, I think are all ahead of him at the moment, and I think that's difficult for Zouma to deal with when he was such a key player in the autumn, really. And there was talks of a new contract. I don't think that's going to be the case. Rudiger knows how unpredictable this club is, and I'm sure Christensen the same, so maybe both of those players are just waiting. But for me, the answer is promoting Mark Guehi from the Championship, who's currently at Swansea. I think this is such a great option in terms of not spending a lot on an area that I don't think Chelsea should be spending like 70 million on, when I think we should invest that money in central defensive midfield. If we save 60 to 70 million in a centre-back, in bringing back, say, Mark Guehi and keeping majority of the centre-backs we currently have, and then, of course, investing that for me on Declan Rice, better option, because it's a key area in the team that needs to be resolved in the summer for me. It's the same with goalkeeper. I don't think we need to spend majorly on the goalkeeper this summer. So I think that in terms of centre-back, Mark Guehi has impressed so much for Swansea. You listen to Swansea fans, you listen to people who watch the Championship on a regular basis, and they call him the best centre-back in that league by some distance. His physicality for such a young player is really impressive. So any sort of concerns that he come into the Premier League and be stunned by that physicality. Also, he's been playing in a 3-back system, but at times Swansea have shifted to a 4-back system, and he's worked within that as well. But I think currently, if Tuchel was to stick with a 3-back system, I think he could play on the left side of that as a left-footed defender as well, which Chelsea don't currently have on that side of the pitch, which could really help us out. And also, I could already see the arguments against bringing Mark Guehi back. He doesn't have Premier League experience, sort of demeaning the Championship. Well, I can bring up several examples of players currently in the Chelsea first team, young players who've been promoted in recent years who didn't have Premier League loans and flourished in the Championship, and then were promoted to Chelsea's first team and are thriving and are currently first team players. The two best examples I can give you is Mason Mount and Reece James. Now, You may call Mason and Reece very freakishly good talents at their age, unique talents that the academy has developed, but Callum Hudson-Odoi hasn't had a loan, and I don't think he will at this stage in terms of a development loan. And Tammy Abraham spent 2 seasons in the Championship, spent one with Swansea in 17-18, but was with Aston Villa the year before he came back to Chelsea, so he experienced more of the Championship than the Premier League. But both Reece and Mason are great examples that just because you don't have a Premier League loan, it doesn't mean you aren't ready to be in the Chelsea first team and aren't good enough. And I think that Guehi's such a great option for Chelsea this summer without spending tons of money. And I just think, doesn't mean he's going to be a guaranteed starter next season, but just being involved with the squad, being a rotational player, and can potentially surprise Thomas Tuchel in pre-season, get that opportunity, and then get more minutes, and I think it could save the club millions. So personally for me, I'm not really craving a new centre-back at the moment. I said you could watch videos of me back in January, just when Tuchel arrived, where I did think that maybe we did need a new centre-back. I'm not certain on that anymore, simply because I think there are more important areas this summer that Chelsea need to focus on, like midfield and potentially striker, but also just because of the way that defence has improved under Thomas Tuchel. So I think you've got to have confidence with that element as well. That's my personal opinion. Mark Guehi returning from Swansea next season to be given a chance with Chelsea's first team under Thomas Tuchel. I think that's the best option personally for me. Let me know your opinions on this centre-back situation. Any centre-backs you think Chelsea should be prioritising that haven't been named recently, let me know in the comments below. And finally, just want to touch on Christian Pulisic and just talk about Pulisic, because last week we were discussing post West Brom his injury issues and sort of concern once again of him being, having his season further sort of hampered by injury issues. But since then, it's really turned quickly for Christian Pulisic in the complete opposite direction. I mean, this has now turned into probably the best week of his season, in particular for Chelsea. But you look at his form for the US on international duty, I think that really helped him. Scored and played well for them. Came back, scored against West Brom, played against Porto, could have scored in the first leg, hit the bar, but then started against Crystal Palace and had an amazing game. I felt he was man of the match, scoring 2 goals. We saw sort of the Christian Pulisic of last season that excited us all. And against Porto, I mean, this stat here in terms of Christian Pulisic being fouled, I mean, he was so key, and many of you guys have called him man of the match. I think in my review on Tuesday, I called him my man of the match as well, just because of the amount of fouls he won to run the clock down. Christian Pulisic won 11 fouls against FC Porto, the most recorded by a player in a single Champions League game in the past 5 seasons. He really sacrificed himself for the team, I think, and in terms of winning those fouls, Eden Hazard, who we spoke about earlier in the episode, such a great player for that, of attracting fouls, of letting Chelsea, breathe a little bit. I think it was so key for Chelsea, who were being so defensive the other night, and sitting back. It really helped Chelsea calm things down, control the game, and Pulisic could have scored a couple more goals, and I think his movements are looking positive again. I think his influence from deep in terms of build-up, it's looking like Pulisic, with a run of games again under Tuchel, is starting to get back to those levels. And unfortunately this season, he hasn't had the opportunity to have a consistent run of games because other players have been ahead of him. He's had fitness issues. It's usually been the case that he's had an injury that's taken him out. And of course, you coming back into fitness, Tuchel, when he arrived, I think gave Pulisic a few sub-appearances, but didn't start him, I don't think, to the Barnsley game in the FA Cup, where he really didn't impress that much. So, Pulisic finally, in the run into the season, is finding some form, and especially a goal scorer like Pulisic, who I think is probably his strongest part of his game. I think he can be a great goal scorer for Chelsea. I truly do believe that as a wide player. It's big for Chelsea, and I really hope that he starts against Man City. I mean, I've given you a spoiler for my Man City team selector, but I think he should be starting, because I think at the moment, alongside Mason, I think he's performing really well. And I think the way his influence in build-up and finishing, and how quickly things can change. I mean, this is the sort of the story of this season in many ways, of not writing off players too quickly, because we have so many games, and Tuchel rotates so frequently. So there's always going to be opportunity that a player that maybe at the moment, I've seen some comments frustrated that Ziyech isn't playing as much. Well, we've had this discussion with Ziyech before. I remember doing a video pre the Atletico second leg where I was discussing sort of Ziyech and him looking lost in the system. And then 2 days later, he's scoring an important goal against Atletico Madrid, starting that game and having a really good performance. So I think the idea of writing anyone off in this squad at the moment, unless they're really not having any opportunities, I think someone like Tammy Abraham is more concerning, because he's barely getting a look in. But predominantly for a lot of those attackers who could all fare in this starting 11 and could all make themselves such key players for Tuchel, I think there's an opportunity for all of them to get into the starting 11 alongside Mason Mount. I think everyone is trying to reach those attacking levels to Mason Mount's consistency this season, but Pulisic for me really encouraging because I think he's such a deadly talent on his day. I think he really is. And given he's such a young player, if he can put those injury woes behind him, which is still going to be a big question mark for a while, we have to see him stay fit for a while. And if Chelsea can manage him well, devastating player. And I think you look at someone like Timo Werner, he's struggling to get back into the first team at the moment, because Pulisic has not only come in and his all-round game is so influential for Chelsea, he's scoring goals as well. And I think that's a key element that Chelsea have been lacking. So Pulisic, really encouraging. Let me know your opinions on Christian Pulisic. Do you think he's going to have a really strong end to the season and potentially could score some big goals in the Champions League and also this weekend against Man City in the FA Cup? Let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Gonna have my Man City preview out tomorrow, some other stuff too pre-Man City, probably another news video to catch up on anything going on around Chelsea, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again